We have spent thousands of hours. I had 5 guys. We start training together. The week after we are 20. The week after we are 100.
Now suddenly you've got Vettori training with you and one championship fighter's training with you.
Cody Garbrandt, I've trained with Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes. This small village became almost like the mecca of the Italian MMA.
One of the names on his list of the people that he wanted to fight was Anthony.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to take it, Anthony Cascas, so I'll call him out here, but...
Yeah, if he wants, we can look at him now.
What kind of criticism do you get?
You just take people down, hold them. I say, okay. So Bads, knockout. Hamza, knockout. Zach, left hook, knockout. Would they say, oh, you guys can only strike? Say, okay. So we start submitting people. Percy won by submission, one of the most beautiful choker. Oh, that was like...
Was that a tough decision for you to make?
Yeah, that was the toughest decision in my life.
It's really interesting to see because when I was 17, I was like so set on becoming a footballer. You know, like I really wanted to go play for Barcelona and Liverpool and all the big clubs in Europe, and obviously it didn't pan out for me, but it's like, it's interesting how life kind of just throws you in all these different directions and you think you can end up doing one thing, but you do another. And Did you know like from the onset, like MMA was your end game?
Yeah, I knew it because like my grandfather was a fighter, my father also, my brother and myself. So it was at the beginning I did not really know if it's something I wanted to do or it's something like I have to do because all my family does. But I was like pretty young and I realized like I'm more obsessed than my parents and my brother. So I said no.
Were they boxers, like traditional boxers?
So my grandfather and my father, they come from traditional karate. So the Shotokan one, the full contact karate, and which that's where I started too. And I was in the national team, and I started like competing around the world, and I did good, but I was feeling very, I was not feeling complete. You know, I wasn't feeling like a fighter because I always have doubts. You know, always like I always wanted to be more complete. So I was feeling, what happened if someone can take me down? What happened if someone can rest on me? I'm not like if you, I don't know, you win a karate or boxing world championship, you're not the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah.
You know? Some average MMA fighter, maybe amateur, can beat your ass. You know, so it's that's where I was trying to find myself more complete, through the journey.
Yeah, it's kind of like that situation if you put Tyson Fury and John Jones into just a street fight and let them do whatever they want. I'm putting all my money on John Jones all day of the week.
Less than 1 minute.
Yeah,
less than 1 minute.
Like in any way he wants, because boxing is a beautiful sport. You know, when you watch like Lomachenko's footwork or Floyd Mayweather's head movement or, Canelo's just aggressiveness and then a defensive discipline, when you watch all these guys compete, you're like, wow, this is amazing to watch. But it's an incomplete sport.
Yeah.
So you felt that from like a pretty young age, like karate was beautiful and it had its merit, but there were holes in the game.
Look, I'm glad I started with the traditional karate because it's projecting the way I'm coaching and I'm living the lifestyle of a mixed martial artist now. Okay, coach, etc. Because a lot of people are fighters, but not too many are martial artists, which is completely different. Okay, when you're a martial artist, you embrace a lifestyle. No, it's a concept. I just read for my 3rd time the book Sun Tzu. No, and I read it in 3 different moments in my life. I read it when I was a kid, I read it like when I was competing, and I read it now when I'm a coach.
What's Sun Tzu?
Sun Tzu is like the art of war.
Okay, yeah.
And read it as a coach, specifically like the aspect like how important is a general in a battle, in a fight, in a competition, and how important is for a general take count of everything what can make you win the war, because back in the days was a life and death situation. So you want to make sure if it rained the day before. You want to know if you're up on the hill or down to the hill, how many they are, what they doing, what's their style, what the sword they have. Like that's what I try to do as a coach. Like I don't leave nothing on the case. Everything is studied in the minimum of details, and that's what makes, in my opinion, a general a good general. You know, a general who doesn't count of point which could make him win the war is a bad general.
Yeah.
You know? Because this sport is like very intimate. You know, when you get beat up and your family is watching you, your girlfriend and everything. Like as a coach, I cannot sleep. You know, I feel bad for weeks if one of my guys lose maybe in a bad way, or lose because I could have done something better. You know, and that's the responsibility you have to take on your shoulder, because you know Mike Tyson spoke on the podcast with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan asked him like, why you have great life experience. You was the youngest heavyweight champion in the world. You have done everything. You have tigers in your bag. You have experienced everything in life. Why are you not coaching? And Tyson said, man, like, no, like for coaching, I have to be a special person. Like I have to be someone who can see things in a different way, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I feel I try to do with my guys, you know?
How, because I imagine that you came up through the Serbian martial arts system, right? Like you lived over there for how long were you?
So it's a bit complicated. So my family moved out of Serbia because it was the Balkan War.
Right.
And they immigrated in Slovenia, which was at the time ex-Yugoslavia. And from there, my dad and my mom, there was like, that's probably what I get most from them, and that's in my opinion, my talent is my work ethic. My parents, they will wake up like at 3-4 a.m. in the morning, drive. My dad was driving through the border to go to Italy and work as a butcher there.
Wow.
Every day. And
he'd cross borders every day to go to work.
Every day. And,
that's crazy.
And we was living like, you know, it's funny, and I want to actually say something because can help some fighters out there. You know, everyone like to talks about tough upbringing. You know, like my family and myself, we literally came from war, and we was living like in 30-meter square apartment. Me, my brother, my parents, and you have like the toilet in common with all the building. You know, the housing commission for real, not like you know. When they show me the housing commission in Sydney, I say, fuck, I want to move there. That's like 5-star.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like our understanding of poverty here in Australia is completely misconstrued. Like when you do travel and you do go overseas and you see like the conditions that other countries and, you know, people that don't have money live over there, it's heartbreaking. It
is. And it's this like, for example, for me, like, that's my first feeling of being uncomfortable, you know, because I seen my parents, I seen like going to the supermarket and like not afford to buy certain things. On your mom, my mom, if you think my dad is a very tough guy, very tough man, like strong man. I felt when I was a kid, if he will stomp his feet on the ground, he can stop everything. I saw him like a giant, like an invincible man, but my mom is even stronger. Like these people, they didn't have nothing, but they never. That's what I want to say. Like if someone comes from a very tough situation, they're not gonna say that. They're almost embarrassed to say they didn't have nothing. That's a big difference. And that's where you see like someone who really didn't have nothing. It's not like, oh, I come from nothing. No, it's like you don't talk about. You're embarrassed to didn't have nothing. And for me, it was like that. So that's what I was feeling uncomfortable. And I never spent much time with my parents because they was always working, doing 2-3 jobs, and tried to really get our life to the next level. And there, my dad had like a big car accident one of the morning going to work, and that's my mom say to my dad, look, we're not gonna do that. You're not gonna travel every morning up and down. We're gonna move to Italy. And this is how I moved to Italy when I was like 3-4 years old. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. So you essentially left Serbia, went to Slovenia up until...
My parents left Serbia, was ex-Yugoslavia at the time, was very confusing, was war, like, a very tough period for the Balkans, very dark period. I was born in Slovenia.
Right.
And after I moved to Italy, yeah.
Okay, and so when you were in Italy, is that when you started? Is that where you found martial arts? Like, is that
no, my dad was already a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the national team in Yugoslavia. He was like a very, very well-known fighter in traditional karate. And once I moved to Italy, I started very young. I was like 3-4 years old. My dad was my first coach. So yeah, probably since I have memory, like this was the first things I will do, you know.
Yeah.
As a sport.
And that's such a fortunate position to be in the sense that your dad was a high level competitor, your grandfather was a high level competitor. So already you've kind of got the foundation of the right people around you that understand the sport, that understand what's required of it. I mean, that's what I feel one of the tougher parts of mixed martial arts in Australia is that it's not accepted culturally yet. Like we have our own little subculture, right? Where you've got promotions like Eternal and Hex and Urban, and we're all kind of like this little community, but it doesn't get the mainstream media, the mainstream press.
But I will tell you one thing. I feel Australia is it's probably one of the best country in the world in terms of martial arts, because like people don't understand one thing. You know, everyone thinks to have success in life you have to struggle. Well, I don't agree a lot on these things. You know, I think like some type of struggle, so being uncomfortable until you are in a safe way uncomfortable is okay. But when you experience things, some things in life, they don't get you better. You get touching your like intimate crystal inside you, and you're not the same. So some type of experience like violence, you know, like think about abuse, child abuse, that's not getting you like tougher. It's you're gonna be always cut inside. You're gonna always be broken, you know. So I feel Australia is a very comfortable, so you can find a part-time job like most of my students, buds, all of them, they working, they waking up at the morning, they make enough money and they can afford to training and things like that, which is a very comfortable position to be. Overseas is not like that. Overseas, once you move to the age when you can make money, your family will tell you, wait, like, okay, that was my family too. My dad was a fighter. He told me like, nah, you're not going to make money with this. Like go and find yourself a proper job and like leave this bullshit aside. And my dad was a fighter, you know, a competitor. It's, you need to have like the opportunity to be the best, you know. Muhammad Ali says, to become a champion, you have to choose the right people next to you and the right environment. And that's true, you know. If you don't have nothing, like Mike Tyson is one, everyone brings him as an example, but I can bring you hundreds of examples of people which are in a comfortable situation and they decide in the healthiest way possible to make themselves uncomfortable to evolve and progress in life and in the sport, which that's, you know, I know rich people who they put themselves in a position to be uncomfortable so they grow even more where they are. And after, let's be honest, like you have people with nothing who they choose to don't have nothing, and they get comfortable on don't have nothing, because it's a blessing don't have nothing. What do you have to lose? Nothing. And I know people with everything who also they don't want to be uncomfortable, and that cannot be a growth, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point you touched on, in that you do need to have the right team and the right people and the right environment and the right food to all those factors go into making a champion. That's absolutely right. And I think in martial arts, we kind of tend to idolize the outliers. We kind of tend to idolize the people that did come from nothing, like the Francis Ngannous, the Conor McGregors, the Muhammad Ali's, the Mike Tysons, those characters that overcame so much adversity and became the best in the world at their period of time. I 100% agree with you there. The point I was kind of making though was that because you did come from a background of fighters and you came from a family of fighters, essentially, you had access to more information, more tools. Your dad, for example, if you got caught in a karate competition and you just got completely obliterated, your dad would know what that feels like. Your dad would understand how to hold your hand through that process and tell you like, okay, this is what you're going to do next time. This is how we're going to get better. Whereas I think in Australia, because it hasn't culturally been accepted widely yet, a lot of fighters don't have that foundation. So they have to turn to their gym. They have to turn to their head coaches. And, you know, like there's thousands of gyms in Australia, but there's probably 20 to 30 good ones.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what people don't understand. You know, even the competition with gyms, it's the best things you can have. Why? Like if you are the best, right, and you don't have competition around you, you're not going to grow. I'm so glad there's so much competition in Australia, because like that's the reason we're going to grow as a team exponentially, you know. I believe, and like I like to talk about data, no? Definitely, we are the most active team in Australia, probably. I don't see no one be more active than us, you know. I think it's it's what I try to do. You know, I have the opportunity, I have offer to run my own show and open like a promotion, like which I didn't need to invest anything. I should just do the matchmaking and, you know how things move, etc. I didn't want it, because it will put me in a very uncomfortable position, and I want to focus and be on the trenches with my guys.
How would it make you uncomfortable?
I explain you, because even if you are the most equal person in the world, you know, and you, for example, in matchmaking, when your guy fights and you care, you're not gonna be equal. You know, you're not gonna be. It's very hard, and it's very hard on you also. You know, because I don't want to put, in terms of investment of energy, I don't want to be put in the spot, because I can invest that energy to be in the trenches with them. You know, look my bruises in the face. Like yesterday I was sparring with the boys, you know, I was in the cage with them. And that's where like I try to make the difference. Like, and bringing back the example, you know, as you say, Mike Tyson and all of this, I think became almost a cliche to have to be a fighter. I came from nothing. Is boring, very boring. Do you agree? Okay, it's okay at some point, but like, which people are having success now? Paddy the Buddy, like not like people who are different, because everyone is over the things. Same things as a coaching. I try to do things completely different. This is why we always talk about this MMAFFT system, no? Which you can come in the gym. I have people from every single gym, name it, they came to training with me. Every single gym in Australia. But you cannot really steal the things we're doing, because you have to be in the system. I call it like a circle system, right?
Do you think they come to train to like try and steal information?
No. It's not about stealing. Like you want, look, we have 10 win streak, right? And 10 win streak, like you can put up the topology, you know, because I like to talk about data. From Serbia, Demolition belt, Path of X to belt, Tahiti, New Zealand. Just look at the record of the people we fought. No, also, you know, I'm a World Championship. Fane Mesquita, she fought 10-0, undefeated Brazilian, Bahrainian girl. In the final, she beat the Spain girl. She won 4 fights in a row against a girl 10-0 who never lost. You know, the former world champion. We built the first ever IMMAF world champion from Australia is coming from my team, you know. So I don't think it's about stealing. I did the same. When I came to Australia, the first things I did, I flew to Australia and I went to Wollongong at freestyle fighting. Because, like, you know, everyone say which is the best team in Australia. Like, I'm not part of the freestyle fighting, but they are the best. End of story. Because they have, like, a guy who's the pound for pound UFC champion. How can people say we are the best? We are the best. They are the best.
On top of having Alexander Volkanovski there, like the fighters that are coming up through that system as well, and the guys that train there.
Exactly.
Like Lachlan Van Herdeen, and I know Josh Kuhn does some work there sometimes, and like they've got a list of fighters there that really do either push for title shots here in Australia or are the title holders already. Like they are definitely one of the most successful gyms in Australia. And I don't think there's many people that would push back against that?
No, I think like you hear quite often people saying we are the best, which is okay, but I like to be honest, you know, I like to be, to get the data, you know, like they are the best at the moment, and that's a blessing, guys. It's a blessing. I meet Alex. He's an amazing person, like not only a champion, he's just like an amazing human being, and have something big like that, it's gonna make grow all the gyms around, you know. It's like just same in Dagestan, you know, like they're all killers, but because they're surrounded by killers. Like if you are you and you're the best, which that was my position at some point in Italy. I don't know if you have checked on the story of FFT. It's not like now, like I'm 31 soon. I start coaching when I was 18. Why I was start coaching? Because in my area, MMA didn't exist, you know. I wanted to compete, and I have to travel to Slovenia 1 hour and a half, and up to the mountain in Italy for do wrestling, almost 2 hour drive, to have like a quality training, right? In my area wasn't nothing. We had like a crazy good kickboxing and boxing culture, but as I told you, as a coach and as an athlete, I was very smart on understand what I need to do to win. No, and a lot of people get this ego. Oh, I don't like the ground game. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna just like knock them out. It's not gonna work like that.
Yeah,
you're gonna get taken down, and they're gonna rape you. You know, that's what's gonna happen. You know?
It's the truth. I think now, especially with the evolution of mixed martial arts, in that you're not just going to a karate gym, or you're not just going to a taekwondo gym, or you're not going to a Muay Thai gym. You're going to a mixed martial arts gym now. I mean, if you are a gym and you aren't a complete mixed martial arts gym, you are selling your fighters short. That's undeniable, because now with, you know, the growth of ONE, with the growth of Bellator, with the growth of the UFC, it's people are getting exposed. You can't be a Ben Askren. You can't be just a wrestler
or just a grappler.
You can't be
striker.
You can't. You have to have a complete game, and that's probably one of the hardest parts about the sport, is that there is so much to learn in so many different disciplines. And it tends to be that the fighters that have a wider base of being able to cover every discipline at a decent level of depth will have the most amount of success. You can't. There are odd cases of specialists, right? There are odd cases of, let's just go back to Conor, you know, a pure striker who's going to be looking for a left hand down the pipe. That's him. That's his personality. That's his style of fighting. But you take him on the ground and he can still defend.
He actually, like when I was in Italy and I had like few guys. One of my students, Hugo Borim, he moved after to SBG, and he became not of the headquarter. Is few SBG in Ireland. This is the headquarter and few other small SBG around. And he was the jiu-jitsu coach there, and he was telling me, bro, like he's good on the ground. He's not like, you know, as people think. Yeah, he have like this weapon, which is his left hand, you know, but also he's good in so many things which people don't really recognize him, you know, because of
yeah, it's the highlight reel knockout that everyone remembers.
You know? So yeah, so that's 12 years ago when I started coaching, because I started coaching in the most simple way. I needed people to train so I can fight. At some point, like we start, and if you after gonna pull out on Instagram, we literally went start training in a park, right? And I had 5 guys. We start training together. The week after we are 20. The week after we are 100. And at some point, like, oh shit, I need a gym, you know? And so I went to talk to the council in Italy, and I love Italy because you still have like, I miss it so much. You still have like this old school moral and value, you know? Like people know you and they know what you're doing. They have to help you. It's like a very, it's like this system in place, which I love it. I miss it, you know? And I feel Australia, it's more like free in that case. Like he's not always the best to get like what he deserves, you know? Sometimes if you're good on other things, you can get your way in. In Italy, well, you have to prove yourself as a person. They look at who you are, the family you come from, what you have done. Like it's still like this old school.
Yeah,
mentality.
it's very community based. It's very like that old school mentality of taking care of each other and oh, that's his son or that's his uncle.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure you treat him right. Like there's definitely that attitude about Italy. Whereas in Australia, I think culturally it's the biggest problem that we face is that we are so multicultural. So there's not one kind of ideology or one kind of system that runs through. It's kind of everyone just does their own thing.
Yeah.
So you go and you start building up all these classes out in the park, and then you go to the Italian council or something and say, hey, like I need a gym.
Yeah. So I went to him, which everyone knew me there because it's not like a big city. It's like, so my gym was actually based in a village of 4,000 people. And I had like 400 students. So it's 10%.
You had like 10% of the population.
It's not all from the village. They come, but the city when I start everything is like Monfalcone is like 35,000 people, which is one suburb in Sydney.
Where is that in Italy?
This is in northeast of Italy.
Right.
It's on the board like with Slovenia, Croatia, and Austria on the other side.
Okay.
So it's a very beautiful place to visit also. And I went to him. They give me like these hours late in night, was like 9:30 p.m. until 12 p.m. And I was working in IKEA, and I have to wake up at 3 a.m. and I was working at 4. I was moving packages in the magazine, etc. Logistic, no? And the things is like I started with this project called Martial Arts for Integration, when I was like getting all these kids from a very tough upbringing. Addiction, family with problems and things like that. And I had like this project, I was coaching them for free, right? Which is something I try to do here in Sydney too. I have like 3 classes where I completely for free, and everyone who cannot afford, I'm there and I do it. I don't get paid for these classes. I do it for them, to have the opportunity to change their life, because no one can tell me, oh, I don't have opportunity. No, the class is for free. Show up and let's see if you can make it, And from there, we grow a lot, and I needed more hours. And my students are doing great. I had like Marvin Vettori coming training with us. We have Danilo Beruardo, ex-UFC fighter, training with us. Amedovski, UFC fighter, training with us. Leon Aliu, brave fighter, cage warrior, Dana White contender, serious fighter. At some point, this small village became almost like the mecca of the Italian MMA.
So what was your strategy towards getting the fighters in? Because that can often be, tricky, right? Like getting the right people into the gyms or getting the right numbers into the gym. So when you're over there in Italy, how did you go from just having like this park of 50 to 100 students to now suddenly you've got Vettori training with you and Bellator fighters training with you and one championship fighters training with you? Like that's a big leap to make as a gym owner.
Yeah, and that's like sometimes even my friends when I went back to Italy say you make things looks like simple and easy to do it. Well, it's like 12-year process.
Right.
It wasn't like we went from the park, etc. Like we started doing good as a team. The first important movement was like, it's like an animal. At some point, you need to grow, and if your shell is too small, you need to find a place where you can grow. So I was talented as a fighter to understand. I never had like crazy talents like power, strength, but I was very smart. Like my fighting IQ was different. I was really smart to understand like what I need to do to win, and I was like honest with myself, which sometimes it's cruel because like when I moved from striking to MMA, right, my jiu-jitsu sucked, and I remember going to this gym in Slovenia, and I was in shape, I was in a national team, I was good, and these kids just like I'm picking him up like using strength but didn't have like the technique, and this guy is able like to get a submission on me, and I'm like, I remember that day probably is where they create the monster, because like these kids choked me and I was like I went to sleep and I'm like at home like I cannot sleep, like fuck, no, I have to become good on that. So I start traveling like to the best,
and that's one of the hardest things to do as an adult, is to be really good at something and then start something new which you suck at. Like so often we just choose to stay in our own lanes, and that's why you see a lot of people unable to grow or unable to expand from the point that where they're in, because they're comfortable in this one arena. They're comfortable at doing this one thing and they're really good at it and they're finding a lot of success at it. So there's no need to innovate. There's no need to change. And it's always the most successful people are the ones that are looking for discomfort, that are constantly putting themselves in their positions where they can be hurt, where they can lose, where they can look like a failure. And those people are the ones that go and develop the skills that the other person refuses to.
Yeah. And so the first big move for the team there, after we had this hour in a public gym in a school, you know, like was like a basketball gym. We just put the mats down, etc. I tried to find a gym, you know, because these guys are start competing and doing very good. So we actually, the story, when you're gonna, the guys can check it on the MMAFFT page. If you scroll all the way down, you see the beginning and you're gonna laugh a lot. And we went, we find this magazine was like, you know, the stairs of a soccer field, the stairs when you watch the tribuna, when you watch
like the grandstand.
Under the stairs was like this old magazine full of like rats, everything like was stinking, like very ugly, you know. And you could not training in there because in Italy, like in Australia, you have to have like evacuation plan if something happen. You have to have like emergency door.
Right.
Like, you have to have like, you know, if someone get hurt, it's gonna be a problem. So I spoke with the how I bring people. Well, the first reason I was open to help people, you know, with the project I was doing, martial arts for integration, I had like people who are doctors in my gym, but I have also like the son of a mob gangster coming in the gym, you know. I had like all of them, and where you have to like win the respect of people is this with the structure, you know. When you have a structure in place, and this is what I like to say, MMA is a very healthy addiction, you know. So MMA, you cannot play MMA, you know. So if you are a street guy, you know, who wants like to scrap and wants like likes to fight,
enjoys violence,
enjoy like it. I don't know if it's really violence. I feel like I like to study, you know, as you know, like I'm not, and that's what I try to evolve as a coach. For me, it's not only about the technical and tactical aspect. I study a lot. I study psychology, philosophy. I speak 5 languages. You know, it's many things I try to do outside than fighting to make me as a coach better in coaching them the right way to win, you know, because it's my responsibility, you know, to try to be the best I can and to pass it to them. And for me, like, it's a primitive things, you know, like you can put people in the room, one in corner, someone play basketball, soccer in the other corner, volleyball, and put like in the darkest corner 2 people who punch each other. Who's gonna watch everyone?
Yeah.
The 2 guys who are having a fight. Is natural. Okay? Since a human being, we and it's interesting. You know, you go in the gym and I observe. You know, I seen it, and you see the dynamic. You see the guys who are you have 2 type of fighters. You know, and that's very interesting and very huge conversation to have. But you see when someone is an alpha. You know, you see when someone and other fighters are following him. You know, and also you've seen how the things progress. Like this guy maybe is the alpha now, but some young guy is coming, no? And at some point, like in the animal world, he tried to challenge one of the alpha to get his recognition, right? And he's not ready, and he accept his position, but he's growing. And now the alpha have to do one thing: so accept this guy growing, be better than him, or fighting to not let them. And this is the most interesting part. You can see this dynamic. You know, you have to, sometimes I'm like with the camera, I'm watching outside and I see everything happen, no? Like I have a room like with, we have sparring day, we have like 50 guys sparring, but 50 killers, you know? And you can see all the dynamic, and you can see.
Yeah, we naturally fall into hierarchies, and we naturally fall into knowing where our place is. And I think mixed martial arts is actually the purest form of hierarchy, because you find out very quickly whether you can beat someone or not, or where you are, if you're on their level, if you can compete with them. And that's why the concept of belts is so appealing for fighters, because it's having the belt isn't just, you know, a piece of silverware. It's a symbol of, I'm the top of the hierarchy, I'm the top of the pyramid, this is my point in time. And we tend to cling to those moments of being able to call yourself the best in the world, or the best in Sydney, or the best in Australia. And it is a really it's a really primal instinct to have. So as you're developing like these people from different walks of life, and developing your own systems, and getting you know, the foundations of MMAFFT essentially in place, was there a point in time where you felt like, what I've done here in Italy is complete, I need to go somewhere else? Or was it more so a case of there was just bigger opportunities here? Like, why did you make the jump from Italy to Australia?
That's it's more connected to my personal life than the sports life. So on all my students, I had a few guys who I was very close to. Like I became the man of a house before I become a man. Since a kid, you know, I have to look after everyone. I was like, this is why sometimes I struggle with the dynamic in Australia, because like, as I told you, the interesting part also probably helped me to have a lot of numbers in the gym. When you go in Italy and you open like an academy of any sports, you go to the council and you ask like, okay, can I open the gym? I want to open a gym there. And like in Italy, it's so funny. So the girl who does the approval, this guy came to the council and say, I want to open an MMA gym. She looks, you can't.
Oh, wow, really?
That's how it works, you know. It's like you get this respect, which is like, it's good. I like it, you know. If you are like, if you own your respect and you're doing the right things, people support you, you know. Like, I'm getting these kids out of the street, you know, and like when we went in our first gym, we was abusive, so we couldn't go because we didn't have like this.
It was
place
a what? Sorry,
I can say when you was illegal to be training there because you didn't have like the fireman exit and all of this. Which you're gonna see some interesting footage with Marvin training there, and we didn't even have the heat. Like sometimes the mat will be with the ice on top. So you take someone down, ice.
You gotta send me these videos. I'll include them in the podcast.
And the interesting part, like we didn't even have a toilet. We need to walk in the rain, in the snow, like for 400 meters to go in the soccer field toilet and have a shower there, etc. Was like, that's where like my passion was really tested, you know, and if I really want to do that, because that was like we have rats walking in the gym, like being part of the team after. So was a very challenging things, and with nothing, you know, I'm still working in IKEA, waking up at 3 and being there for everyone. And that's where I have to make the choice as a fighter to like, came natural. No, I was like, wanted to compete, but my guys getting ready, and that's where a coach, like as a coach, I will die for my guys. Like for me, like, you know what's the difference between a champion and a high level athlete? And I always say to my guys this before a fight: we're not having fun. We're not there for fun. Like I told them, you know, my fighters, when they fight, and you can see that in the fight, is not about, is nothing the day after the fight. We don't talk about, if the fight is on Sunday, we don't talk about Monday. It's not Monday. Like we prepare to be willed to die in the cage there. And that's what makes the champion. The champion is willed to be on the edge of the cliff and say like, I'm not gonna go back. I'm gonna jump if I need to jump. And that's it. That's like the samurai mentality. A lot of fighters, even this day, they like the social media, etc., but they don't understand from the roots how strongly fighter they are. Because if a fighter is willed to, you know, you've seen people go to sleep in a fight or break their arm or like even getting knocked down and you can see their soul doesn't want to give up. Still, they try to fight their way to be in the fight, you know. Well, That's that 2-3%. It's not many of them, you know. And that's I was willed to die when I was fighting. For me, like the defeat, and I always tell them in the corner, like it's not tomorrow. Like that's it. Like if we was 2,000 years ago, we will be on the battlefield defending our families, our country, your wife, your kids, and it's like do or die. You know, it's not we're not coming back from this. And if you're will to do that, well, your performance is gonna be that 10%.
You're gonna find that extra gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like that. So for me, like I try to put everything I can, you know. First of all, because I love it, and second, because you don't choose to become a general. You don't choose to become like a leader. People choose you. That's a big difference. You know, a lot of people, they come out there like, I never wanted to be a coach. Like I was, since a kid, I was doing my things, and my friend will come to me and say, Renato, can you help me with that? Can you help me with that? Can you do this for me? Can you help me? I was like this, you know. I didn't looking to like do charity, you know. Like I felt it to do it, and people put me in the position to be where I am now. It's very important to understand that, because even to my fighters, I don't put weight on the shoulder, the same weight on the shoulder on every fighter. Some fighters are special, like are very special. I see my fighters like, and if you look at my team, let's be honest, you know, you see someone like Buds, you see someone like Percy, you see someone like Ismail. Like you look at them, I look them with colors. Like Percy is purple, okay, Buds is blue, you know, Ismail is yellow. You know, I can see them different. That's why it's mixed and martial arts. I work on this philosophy. I treat them different than other normal, common fighters, you know, and I put more weight on them. You know, Ismail, make an example. He's training 6 months. He went to the IMMAFFT World Championship. He won against a 7-0 national champion from Bulgaria, and he lost by split decision against the 2-time world champion junior, and pound for pound ranked #1 junior in the world. Took 5 minutes to say the decision, because for 80% of the people, the 20% of the judges, he won that fight against a world champion. Okay, and he's a special human being. You know, he's like I'm actually scared for whoever like competes against him. You know, he's very dangerous. Like you don't like. Do you ever seen the video how he became famous at 17 years old when like the police stop him and he throw 4 police officers around?
No, what?
Okay, you should get him on the podcast. And
yeah, absolutely. That sounds crazy.
He's like, and he, this guy. You know, what I love about him. I love the fact. He's working every day. You know, he's coming from a healthy family, wealthy. You know, wealthy. Sorry, and he doesn't need to fight. He fights because he's that 2%. You know, 1-2%. This guy's working until 2 a.m. He have like a burger cartel. He works his shop there. You know, and he comes in the gym in the morning, and like he wants it, which is scary.
Yeah, yeah. So. Was that a tough decision for you to make then, to go from, you know, because you do put a lot of weight onto your fighting career, and you do put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like I have to put every ounce of my being into this career. And if I'm going to fight, I need to be fighting with the right purpose and the right intention. Yeah. So to go from an athlete in that sense to saying, okay, I'm going to step away from that world now and go into the world of drawing that same spirit out of other people. Was that a tough decision for you to make?
Yeah, that was the toughest decision in my life, because if people who know me, you know, and they train with me as a fighter, not as a coach, you know, because as a coach you have to like, this is why I don't like many times to spar with my athletes, because I care about them a lot, you know. But a lot of fighters, I've trained with Cody Garbrandt, I've trained with Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes, TJ Dillashaw. I'm training with some of the best.
It's a big regimen.
You know, I'm training with Alex also. Okay, Martin Nguyen, 2-time one championship world champion. You can ask them my level, you know, and it's for me, it's not ego on proving who I am. Like I start fighting because I was trying to, like people say, everyone look up to the fighter thinking about fighter have something more than other people. That's the mistakes. These fighters have something less. This is why they're fighting, because they want to feel it. So the reason I was fighting is because I wanted to be happy. You know, simple how it is. I want to be happy and I want to feel complete. Okay, once I've reached that, and which I could have been a great fighter, you know, but for me, I didn't care about that ego. You know, I didn't have that ego anymore. For me, it's nothing more beautiful to have the power to make someone happy. Like when someone comes to you in the gym and he's broken, his life is a mess, and through MMA he needs like to diet, he needs to training 2 times a day, he cannot stay out partying because like that's why it's a positive addiction, because you have to stay all in. You cannot be 1 foot out, 1 in. And when you have the ability to change someone's life and make him happy, name it, anything you can receive in life, that's the biggest happiness I can get. It's amazing, you know. When Buds came to me, you know, no one know this, but like Buds is coming from a very tough like upbringing, you know. His family wasn't really there for him, you know. And like I got him in the gym like when he was 16, 17, you know. And that's another point like I want to say. That's the things I try to do as a coach. I try to do something different because, let's be honest, it's a lot of great coaches on the technical and tactical aspect. It's a lot of them now, you know, and with the evolution of the sport, you have them more and more and more. Mm-hmm. People who are really passionate and they try to do the things in the right level, in the right way. I try to do things different, okay? With the system we put in place, with we have literally moments in the gym where we are working on psychology, mental strength, you know, like being not only strong in the skills but in your mind, you know. And
why don't you describe the system to me? You don't have to give away your secret recipe, right? But if you get someone like Baz, right, and he's never fought a day in his life, he comes from a tough upbringing, he's, you know, probably really scrawny and thin, and he says to you like, I want to be a fighter, I want to be the next whoever he wants to be. How do you take him from that kid to the monster that he is now, who's just won the Path to Hex championship? Well,
like you have to have a great knowledge and understanding of people, because every person have to be pushed in a different way. Like Buds is not like Ismail, not like Percy. Every one of them needs different things, and you have to have their personal goals, but you have to have the common goals as a team, you know, because without an environment where you can grow, you're never going to be successful. Okay, people think about this sport like an individual sport. It's the most team sport you can ever think about, more than soccer, because you share bloods with your teammates. You share like moments of hardship. You share moments of the highest happiness, you know. So with Buds, it's very interesting, you know. Buds did his debut, I think, after 6-7 months of training, something like that. And was a short notice, which is almost most of the fight we do is a short notice fight, you know. And Suman contact me, say, I have a pulled out, this guy is 30 years old, Bud's just turned 18. And I look at him, and my goal, I trust my instinct a lot, because it's a reason why we have instinct. Like why, I don't know, look at the animals. Like a turtle is born, and from the eggs, the turtle knows have to go to the water, you know. It's like instinct. If you don't trust your instinct, and if you're sometimes with the knowledge, with the technology and all of this, we don't listen to our instinct, you know?
Yeah, we analyze too much.
We analyze too much. How many times you feel to do something, but you trust your mind, and it's the biggest mistakes you have done, because you should have done it like in the with the flowing of what you feel, you know. And I look at Baz and say, okay, he's pulled out. Do you want to fight? He looked at me. Yeah, I want to fight. The way he looked at me, like my goal is make him debut 1 year later. And I look at him. Yeah, we're gonna fight. We're gonna finish this guy. you know, and everyone know what happened. You know, we predicted, and that's another things I try to do.
I mean, just for the people who haven't seen it, I'll probably play a clip now, but I mean, that was one of the most exciting debuts I've ever seen. That was actually my first MMA fight watching live, interestingly enough, and I remember specifically watching Baz land that head kick and like just going straight into my notes going like, I need to get this guy on the podcast, because it was an amazing piece of art. Like, it was probably one of those moments in MMA that you don't get replicated very often.
No. And like for the people who don't know, we actually predict the way we're gonna finish. We are drilling on the cage.
Yeah, I've seen you do a lot of that on Instagram.
Well, I start doing it for a specific reason, because when you start winning, people question what you're doing. You know, makes sense, because like if people don't talk when you're winning, when they're gonna talk? No one talk about losers. Makes sense, right? So I started doing that because that's I love the interview of the post-fight Buds did in Part of Fact. He say everyone, you know, his opponent was undefeated, 3-0. This is what I want to say. Like, I had like blim messages, like people saying like, they fight only at their home. Like, I love it when at some point like people don't know what to say and they just like say like just data, just open. It's the beautiful of internet. You can find anything you want. You know, we never fought. We don't have our show, first of all. Like, we fought all the shows in Australia, every single one. Name it, we've been there. You know, in the last 10 weeks, I've been in different places. I've been like in 4 different countries and all different states and shows. Like Bud's last opponent was undefeated, 3-0. Okay, a very strong guy. You see him. If you see the bodies, you think, okay, this guy's gonna win 100% because he looks masculine, like very strong, etc. And one of the things was very interesting. I post a video, no? Like, I love Teen, I love Part of Facts, but, you know, we had like a lot of crowd not supporting our fighter because we're in Melbourne. Makes sense, you know? Like, you're going to have like, you're in enemy territory. That's exactly what you say, and I love what you're saying. Like, a lot of coaches, they protect their fighters.
enemy territory is a bit of an understatement there. I mean, there was a lady from the crowd screaming, kill him! Kill him! Like, it was intense.
Oh, man.
It was intense.
Did you see when I turned around to her and say, like, don't worry, we're going to finish your boy. And Bud is literally saying to me, like, do you want me to finish him now? Now.
That was probably one of my favorite. Like, I probably watched that clip about 4 or 5 times.
That
was
was
like,
nuts. Like,
yeah,
and
it's really interesting because on top of, you know, preparing your fighters physically, you also have to prepare them psychologically for being in conditions like that, because not every crowd's going to be a home crowd. Not everyone's going to play friendly. Not everyone's going to play by the rules. Yeah. So, you know, there is a lot of responsibility on your shoulders to make sure that you prepare your fighters in the best way possible. And I can imagine the reward on your end after watching Baz get the belt and do it against an away crowd and do it in those conditions must have been exceptional, right?
And the points, like what is the most interesting, you know, we don't, when you say about the system, etc., no, there's a lot of things in the system, but one is in place, which is a very, very strong part of what we're doing, is the tactical aspect. You know, we literally drill, for example, side control, right? You pound him, but you are in an enemy territory, you know, the crowd is booing. You know, we drill people booing and let stand up the guys. How many fighters who are winning, they take him down, they're on top, the referee, it's getting the crowd in his heads, they let them up, and the guy who's winning get broken. I just scored a takedown, they just let me up. We drill that.
Yeah.
We drill, I don't know if you've seen, like, Bud's telling him, like, because the guy, which actually comes from a very good team, you know, in Melbourne, and I'm friend with his coaches, etc. The guys say, "Oh, this kid is only a striker. I'm gonna out wrestle him." And I say, "Okay, let's wrestle him. Let's show him MMAFFT wrestling." And Buds took him down for 3 rounds, put in a clinic, didn't get touched probably once, twice, and finished him by submission. Actually, his first time he win by submission. So just to prove them, and he was like, "Who's the wrestler?" And pound. Who's the striker? Who's the striker? Pound. It was like a good win. But you know what I want to tell you? Like, we are very, you know me, you know, and you know my guys. they're very humble as a people, no? But I do also understand how the sport is evolving. Like one thing I don't let my guy, I don't let ever talk. Like I know it's always gonna be a bit of shit talk, you know, talk shit, you know.
We do have a little bit of that on this show.
Yeah, it's okay, you know, and I understand it. But one thing I don't let them do it is never talk bad of other coaches, of other teams, etc. Because have to be some limits, you know. If you guys want to fight each other, good, you know. But if I hear one of my guys saying, "Oh, this coach," like, don't talk. He's a coach, you know. It's a different things, you know.
Yeah.
You cannot. Like if it's back in the days like a tribe and you going to the leader, you are a normal like a warrior, you go to the leader of this tribe and say like, no, you cannot say it, you know, you have to be some sort of ethic, you know, because one day you're going to be a father of your family and some kids maybe comes and try to disrespect you. It doesn't work like that. So I have to be, I understand the game, I understand the call outs and all of these. It's fun. That's why people watching this sport, you have to be entertaining, you know, it's like a very big part of the sport. Yeah, it's I have to be ethic in things, you know. And I always say to my guys, we, you know, like Peterson say on his podcast and one of his sayings say, like, I want them to be, they're good people, but I have to be dangerous also, you know. I have to be dangerous because, like, if you're a good person, and I've been one of them, so I transitioned in my life being very angry as a kid because of the things I was experiencing. Of at some point when I was that established, that strong, and I become very good. But good almost like dumb at some point. You know, I understand like people can take advantage of me, but I was letting him do it because I know how strong I am.
A bit of a pushover.
You know? And now what I really agree is like you have to be good, but you have to be dangerous also because people are going to feel they cannot play with you. You know, if you're just good and you let everyone walk you over, no one's going to respect you. No one. No, so you have to be, that's martial arts. You're learning a skills to hurt someone, but you're not going around the street and using it against everyone, you know. Maybe someone do it. I don't feel that's a martial artist, someone who do that. Like you're learning something which is like a fighter, it's completely different than a common human being, you know. Like a average guy who train MMA finds the bodybuilder on the street is gonna finish him in 30 seconds. You know, that's how it is, you know?
Yeah.
You're training for that. So, yeah.
Let's just go back to the system for a second. So you get someone, let's just say Jimmy. Jimmy comes into the system. He's one of these angrier, tougher, more righteous guys that thinks he should walk around and do whatever he wants and say whatever he wants. And you know, he's strong, but he doesn't necessarily have the right technique. How do you fine tune that? Talk me through the process. Like, obviously, you know, you're going to do hitting pads and all of that stuff, but like...
Well, if you are a guy who come from struggle, everyone in a life should have the opportunity to redeem himself, you know, and through the sport as a coach, you give them this opportunity. But I kick so many people out. Like every day. Like if you check my phone now, I'm going to show you 5-6 people message me to training with. Okay. I accept everyone, but like the first things in the system when like we have a very clean environment in terms of people. Okay. People are not there losing time. You know, I don't look after the beginner. Like I told to the beginner, you want my attention, show up every day, get to that level where you deserve my attention, because my attention is going to go to these guys who are competing every week. You know, Bud's fought with 1 day notice once, okay? And if I don't put an effort on him, like he's not going to perform on the best level. So you have to deserve. But one thing the system does himself, you know, when you are, for example, we are very clean as an environment. If you are not a good person, you're not going to feel comfortable. You're going to leave automatically. I have so many people come, train, they didn't feel comfortable and they leave. So you have like a natural selection of things, you know, like, but you have to recognize, I had in the past, you know, for example, one of my students, she won the shoot boxing world champion in Japan. I was in her corner. So for 6 months, we prepared this tournament. She won a good prize also. She was the first ever Italian to win a shoot boxing world champion. 3 nights, one night, 3 fights in one night. So you win, you move forward. Like one of
3
the hardest
fights in one night.
Yeah, one of the hardest tournament you can imagine. You know, and
Whose idea was that? That's crazy.
And yeah, I kick her out of the gym because like I don't care if you're world champion, if you are like the son of Bill Gates or I don't care who you are. Like if you don't respect what's happening around, you cannot be respected from me. You know, so yeah, the system it's many things in the system. So you have like imagine like a circle, right? And will be great if you come on the start of the circle, but everyone starts in a different moment in the sport, right? For example, you come now. People have evolved in the system in a different level, like. But the good things, like we have this circle of things. Whenever you hit one part of the circle, you're gonna come back to repeat what we're doing. And as I say, we are not strikers, we are not wrestler, we are not grappler, we are martial artists, we are MMA fighter. Which Bud say that clearly. Like, you want to wrestle, we wrestle. You want to strike, let's do it. You know. And it's so many component still. It's so many gray area which. Many people don't work on, and I think that's where we are extremely effective.
Like what?
For example, you know, I put it out there because it's so many fighters who maybe they're not training with me, but you know they can become a champion with the right input, etc. It's not only, you know, people still divide the 3 disciplines. Okay, striking, wrestling, grappling. Okay, let's make it like that's how people see it.
Yeah, those are the 3 big ones.
We don't
just bring this up a little bit. Yeah.
We don't work like that. Okay, we don't work like dividing the disciplines. We're doing MMA. My students are doing MMA every day, twice a day, most of them. Okay, so one of the I think area where we are the strongest is the gray area of the sport, which is all the transition from these 3 disciplines. Think about like these 3 disciplines and the gray area in the middle. For example, scrambling back on your feet, or using your striking to find your opening for the wrestling. Because wrestling is very hard. Wrestling for MMA is easier. Like if you punch someone in the face and get his attention up, you lift his underhook and you get the shot easier than someone who's looking at you. The only things you can do is shooting. Okay, you can use your striking to find opening for your wrestling. You can use your ground and pound to improve your position in your grappling. You can use the wrestling to, for example, make an example, I shoot on you, right? Mm-hmm. You know how many times we work on specific things, like I get you the single leg and I squeeze very strong. I make you feel like I have superpower, I'm super strong. But it's not a real strength. I'm using it just through 3 seconds and I leave it. Okay, now what I did, I put a seed in your mind. Fuck, this guy is very strong, right? Do you agree? Yeah. So now you're going to stay very careful on my wrestling. So I can use that attention I just installed in your head to find the opening for my striking. So I'm going to feint like I shoot. You're going to drop your hands and,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's, you know, I train over at ATT, and that's something that I've noticed as well, is that it's more so with the striking, because I work specifically on striking, like having a very clear opening for a shot and not taking it sends just the same message as taking it, because it's like that person psychologically knows that they were 2 steps behind on the striking sequence. They fell behind. You could have had that shot, but you chose not to do it. So I think in the same sense, it's sending that message of like, he's a really strong single leg, and then like that's it.
Yeah,
it's that psychological warfare, because so much of fighting is that game, is that taking your opponent out of the present moment, making them think about something you did 2 or 3 steps ago, and they're already falling behind, and now they've got more of an uphill battle to get against you.
I agree. Like I think at some point everyone have like a good level of skills and technique. What's gonna make the difference is like how you have worked on your mental aspect, and that's where we excel. Like in this type of things, like which needs time, you know, needs time for someone to install the proper way to thinking, okay, to be an elite athlete, because many of them, they never been athletes, you know. If you have someone maybe who have compete like professionally in soccer, right, and now you decide MMA is gonna be my thing, you have like this structure already from another sport, but sometimes, you know, like the the interesting part of my team, which this year a lot of them they're gonna turn pro. You know, it's they're all my product, so they're not like 20 coaches. You know, sometimes did you see the video? No, I'm calling the technique, they do it.
Yeah.
You know, not because like people that get it wrong, they think I'm pilotating them. We have spent thousands of hours in specific movement and things, and I always say to my students, we fight in 2 against 1, because sometimes I bring you an example. You are on top of the guy, right? And I see the referee from the outside getting ready to stand you up, and me as a coach, I'm calling you ground and pound. What's the reason I'm calling you? Because I know that I seen it. You cannot see it. You are on top of him. I seen the referee coming close, ready to stand you up. So just do it. That's where the trust is different when you have your product as athletes and people maybe coming from other gyms try to learn from you. You cannot build that easy, that connection, right? And like all these guys are my product, you know. Look Hamza. I don't know if you've seen Headshot that. The kid's 18 years old. He was 10 days notice. He fought a man, like a guy with experience, grown man. He won by knockout, and that was exactly the move we drill, you know. And that's the things I'm doing with this video. I want just to show, because for a long time, a lot of times in the past, people, let's go in the cage and let's just have a scrap.
Yeah.
I hate it. Like, why you should like that
Brock Lesnar style of just
go in and like wish for the best.
Yeah.
You know? No, doesn't work like that. You know.
Yeah. I think it tends to be the lighter fighters, like more so the bantamweights and the lightweights, that you do see that more technical, lighter footwork, because you can't necessarily rely on the knockout power. So you have to be a more intelligent fighter, and the heavier you get, I mean, you know, full credit to the GOAT John Jones, but his last fight, it wasn't like a technical masterclass.
He didn't look that good.
He didn't look
for the few seconds.
Yeah. You know? And you have to give him credit. Like he got the submission. He completed the job. There was a lot of pressure riding on that fight, and he did it. So, but it wasn't like we watched his striking and we went, "Oh, that's John Jones from 5 years ago." We're like, "Oh, this is John Jones at heavyweight." Yeah. It's a different beast. I know you do. One of the things I really do respect about you and the way you operate is that you really provide channels to publicize your fighters as much as possible. Like, you encourage them to get on media. You constantly post about them. You talk about their win streaks. You show them, you know, with those clips of you calling emotion and it coming forward into the fight. I think all of that is great, because I always tell fighters that come on this podcast, it's not just your technical skills that matter, but it's your communication skills. So to know that you as a coach almost act like a quote unquote publicist, where you promote your fighters as much as possible, I think that's brilliant. And I think a lot of coaches can actually take a page out of your book in doing that. But of course, when you're engaging in social media, there is going to come a lot of pushback and a lot of criticism that comes with that. Have you experienced that yourself?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love every single one. Because I love, like, look, if you do things and you are on the spotlight, people have to criticize you. And I actually thank them, because sometimes they highlight points I have to improve. And I thank them. So thank you, haters.
Like, what kind of criticism do you get? Like, what kind of?
For example, at the start was, for example, we start winning all the fights by. So at the beginning, actually, when the team was coming up, we had a lot of wins by decision. So the first things I wanted to implement in the system is, like, I don't want my guys, like, I always say to my guys, a knockout and a submission, early finish is okay, right? But we want to make sure with your style in your career you don't take a lot of damage. You know, you have to preserve yourself. So we start with certain style, because I needed in the system them to be complete, okay? And the first criticism was like, "Oh, you guys can only wrestle. You just take people down, hold them." I say, okay. So we start knock everyone out. So Bud's knockout. Zach, did you watch Zach?
No, I haven't seen
34-second left hook knockout.
Wow.
18-second knockout. I think was right uppercut. Okay. And that's an amazing clip too. Hamza, I think I already said Hamza, knockout. And we had like Alfred won the demolition. Alfred trained across with us. We work a lot with SBG. They coming down a lot training with us, specifically in sparring day and other the professional classes. By knockout, and I don't know, we have 4 knockouts.
So you got knockouts, you tick that box.
So would they say, oh, you guys can only strike? Say, okay. So we start submitting people. Fa won the world championship by submission. Buds, who was a striker, choke him out. Percy won by submission, one of the most beautiful choke I ever seen in Urban. That was like sweet. It was sweet because that's where the name come from. And Percy is such a special athlete. Guys, you don't understand. He's he had only one loss, and it wasn't like in his division. Like he fought a guy so much bigger. You watch the fight, you can see two different. And he fought a great athlete also, which good on him, a good game plan, etc. But I think I don't remember now the name of the guy he was supposed to be fight, but I don't remember now the name. Anyway, he was supposed to be fight one guy, flyweight, but 2-3 days before the fight, we have a change in opponent. He really wanted to fight. He fought. He lost. That's the only loss he had. So he never lost flyweight, and hardly he had 2 belts at the moment. So Path of X and XFC, and it's gonna be a hard fight for everyone. Actually, his next move is pro. So I'm gonna keep him in the trenches for 5-6 months to turn him to the next stage, adding some elbow and specific 5-minute drills. Because one thing we actually do, which is part of the system, is we have specific things we do in specific moment of the rounds. That's a big opening. What do you mean with that? Okay, you can take someone down on the first 30 seconds, but it's expensive to hold someone. It's expensive so we do we have windows. So 1 minute, boom, we do this. On the second minute, we have this window of things we do. On the third minute, we do these things, and we adjust a lot. That's the beauty of being an MMA fighter. You can, in my mind, I think I could have struck with this guy, but it's very awkward now when I'm against him. So you have to have other option, plan B, C.
It's because that's one of the complications is when you do come out with a very compartmentalized game plan like that, is if you get the striking, but then the clinch work doesn't go the way you wanted, it's going to be very hard to transition to the wrestling. So you do have to make all these micro adjustments on the way. Yeah, it's tricky. I'm just going to run to the bathroom. So yeah, we're talking about your haters and the people that don't necessarily aren't big fans of yours. Is that tricky for you to kind of block out? Because, obviously you can prove it in the results, but you might not get the results for another 6 months or another year when you can really show look, these last 3 or 4 fights, we've got knockouts. And now we're not going to, now you can't really use that argument against us. And it's so easy for people online just to shift the narrative and say, okay, well now you're not a strong wrestler, or you don't have a strong wrestling foundation. Is that tricky for you to deal with?
I don't look what anyone else does. Right. For example, I want to give this as a piece of advice. A lot of people, they get very anxious of what other people thinks about them. It's hard. Look, for example, not talking about only the sport. Look, in terms of health, someone is obese and people are just making fun of him. You're not gonna feel comfortable. You're gonna feel mentally very. So I think before I cared more. What people say, but I have to keep an eye on what they say. As I told you, sometimes they're right. So sometimes they're right. So they can help me a lot. But most of the time, I don't really, I'm so busy with make sure my guys have everything they can to succeed in life, because how you bring the example of I'm leaving them free to work on their social media and all of this, because I want my people to make money in the future. I want to provide for them family. How many fighters you have seen amazing, but they don't make money because they don't have that sides to being able to promote. I don't like many things about that, but I do understand it's important, and I want them to be successful in life and to make the living. to do that, social media is a great like opportunity for them to access to people who maybe they're never gonna know about them. You know, so I don't really pay much attention on what other people does, because I have like a vision, I have like a goal on where I want to get my guys. You know, and they ask me, they constantly. I need to feed them with things because they craving to know what's next. I have like, if you see my fighters, I have to stop them. Like, coach, I want to fight, and that's one of the things in the system works very well, is like building the type of environment where everyone is competitive and competitor. The people who stays, they want to compete. So it's just like making athletes, building athletes. You know, Famous Kita is the first ever Australian IMMAFFT world champion, and he's coming from our team, you know, and it's amazing, you know. Ismail, number 3.
Is that a tricky thing to deal with in terms of pulling reins on your fighters and saying, hang on, wait, maybe we shouldn't take this fight right now, maybe we should push it further down the track so that you can develop more?
Like, yeah, because for example, I have one of my guy, he's an animal. Like, he's a very, very, like, he sometimes I turn around in the room, look, and he knocked down someone. I turn around, he knocked down someone else, you know. And he have like a few bad injuries. He injured his ankle also, and he is pushing me to get him a fight, but he's not 100%. Like, he's not. He's a fighter, but he's not fight ready. So you have to. And another point is also when someone have to retire. You know, when someone have to retire, like a fighter hardly gonna retire. You have the coach, you have to sit down with him and have a chat, you know. It's almost like a breakup. You know?
Yeah, it is.
You have to have a chat with him, say, mate, like, you did good, like, you're a warrior, etc. But like, that's it, you know.
Yeah,
no,
you're gonna hurt yourself,
more.
and it always sucks when you see those fighters that you know should have retired a couple years back and they don't. They're hanging there too long, and they're just getting unnecessarily brain damage or getting hurt or messing up their joints because of the fact.
Yeah.
I bring up that question because I'm sure you're aware by now, but recently I had Jesse Swain come on. Jesse recently won the Urban Fight Night bantamweight. He beat Brad Fulmer in an incredible manner.
It was a mad fight.
It was 2 rounds down, pulled out a rear naked in the last one, and honestly, if it wasn't for that moment, he probably would have lost the fight.
Well, like, I was thinking, like, honestly, watching the fights, he was every minute, like, he wasn't like giving up. He was like waiting for his moment. I felt like where Brad should have been, because I watched it live. I felt like that third round could have changed the things, because I've seen him his confidence was going up, etc. Like, yeah, he's a very, very good fighter.
Yeah. And so, you know, after the fight, he called out the number 1 Jack Piper, and, you know, obviously that fight kind of fell through. And then
I'm really close with Jack Piper. Like, I was in his corner in his last fight.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think like he had that offer, to be honest.
Oh, well, when he came on here, they...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they...
okay. Because I'm very close to them. And I know Jack Piper. That Jack Piper doesn't say no. I can tell you that. But
yeah, I mean, look, as a fan of the sport, that's the fight I want to see. Like, you know, Jack's
they're both very good, yeah.
They're both very good fighters, and I think it makes perfect sense to match them up together. For whatever reason, that fight didn't happen. And then one of the names on his list of the people that he wanted to fight was Anthony.
Yeah. I saw that clip. They sent it to me, my boys. Like, which makes sense as a fight, you know.
Right.
But as I was telling you before, Anthony is the guy who injured himself, and I saw in the clip he say, Anthony wants to fight but don't want to fight. Like, look data, okay? Anthony have 1 loss, and the loss he have is against the world champion IMMAFFT now. So come on, like, he was supposed to be fight when he won the super fight title. He was fight to schedule Daniel Mitchell, who was, when he was like 3-1, he was 10-2, and Mitchell had an injury and his shoulder pulled out, and the fight down 3 days before the super fight event, and didn't happen. Anthony is a warrior. Anthony will fight. for sure, that bantamweight contest will be probably one of the best you can see in Sydney. I agree. They're both great fighters. Okay, but as I say, he came out from injury, and I could push him to have this fight in 3 weeks.
No,
weeks?
it would be July 1st, I believe. Is the
July
next
1st. So what is this? 1 month, 2 months?
Yeah.
No, May, June, July.
Yeah, 2 months.
But I don't feel after he been out for. That's the right decision I have to make as a coach. Like, if he wants, we can lock it in now. I know it's an Urban in October, probably also, for sure. Like, Anthony needs one fight to go back on his track. Probably end of July or August, and title fight for sure. Like, it's not a problem. Like, they can relax, they can fight. It's not a problem to have a fight. But like, I think.
So are you saying that you'd rather have Anthony have almost like a tune-up fight first?
Not tune-up. Like he was off for almost I don't know if you know. He just had his ankle broken. Like, he was in a cast. Like,
yeah.
He's not on weight. Like, I think Jesse wants to fight him. He wants the best version of him. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So, it's no problem. We can fight everyone. Like, it's just wait him to be 100%, you know, and it's gonna happen for sure, you know. But yeah, just patience.
Well, in the meantime, do you see anyone else from your camp as potential opponents to?
Oh, we already. That's why I'm a little bit like. It's not my place to say it, but one of my guys is matched against him, I think. So is happening, and is one of your favorite of my guys.
Yeah, I think I know who it is.
Okay, so, but it's the place of Suman to confirm the fight. You know, like, we already say yes, so he have an opponent.
Right. So this isn't a case of like, oh, Jesse looked really good last fight. We don't want to put anyone with him because
we already say yes.
Okay.
So it's very good, but like, a lot of people are very good, you know. And as you say in the podcast, and I agree a lot. Like, come on, like, when you go to IMMAFFT, you have like some level of the competition, and you don't know since the day before who you're gonna fight. So you have to be prepared for everyone. It's not like people who are fighters are not very scared to fight. You know, it's you're in the wrong business if you're scared to fight. You maybe feel tension for the pressure of the spotlights and things like that, but yeah, we have the matchup, like, and we say yes. So
okay, great. No, that's great news.
Just I don't want to say it if Suman, you know, like Suman as a promoter, and promotion have to like. Sometimes like it's so simple as amateur, but I feel like we put so much pressure on these guys. Like, let's just enjoy the journey and fight, you know. But that's, I think, where it's a bit hard in Australia, because maybe the reason why a lot of people are not fighting, because it's already like posters, belt, and all of this. Which in Italy, you have like maybe, or in Russia and Dagestan, on the same day you fight in 3 times. You know, sometimes we put too much pressure on
Yeah, I've had a similar perspective in that sense. I think you know, watching the European system and that the way they strategize their fights, and we'll include Russia in the European system, right? In that, you know, a lot of these amateurs will go on to have very extensive, long careers of 20 fights, 30 fights even at times. And so they have a very strong foundation of which to pull from when they do go pro, right? Because, you know, you might have a really good 5 or 6 fight run streak and then go pros and go, oh shit, like there are holes in my game that I didn't even know about. So from the perspective of bettering the fighters and making sure that they are prepared as possible when they do make that transition to professional, and they're going up against guys that are veterans or are trying to push for the UFC or other organizations, you want them to have as strong as a base as possible. And if they don't have that, it becomes a problem. So obviously you're optimistic, and obviously you think everything is going to go to plan. What do you think your timeline is before we could see the first UFC fighter from MMAFFT?
Well, been already UFC fighter from MMAFFT in Italy. Yeah, Danilo Belluardo.
Okay.
Also, like, Marvin wasn't part of the team, but he was often coming to do camps. But look like.
Well, let's say MMAFFT Australia.
Australia, yeah. Man, like I'm very blessed because on that moment here, like as I told you, I mentioned few of the guys, but some others I didn't even put the name down there because they're gonna debut soon, or like I think I want to be realistic. I think maybe 3 years time.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years time.
That's quick.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. Of course, it's so many things you have to take in count. I have like fighters.
Yeah.
Great record in Italy, and they fall in love. They find a girlfriend. You lost him.
Yeah.
Or family life. You never know. Life is very. People think like how much we look into in all of this chaos of fighting. We're looking for stability, but after we have to deal also with life.
Yeah.
And like you can have your biggest dream. You wanted to be a professional football player, and you at the time maybe believe it like that's all it's gonna happen in my life. It's gonna do it, But also you have to deal with like things around you. So yeah, I think for sure talking about pros, like we have like Fa, who is ranked at #1 amateur female pound for pound in Australia at the moment, and #1 in the world amateur in the flyweight division. She's turning pro in enduro. We have Cooper Royal, which is a freak. Like it's very dangerous. And Percy's turning pro. We have we will see. I have like big plans for a lot of them, but yeah, it's gonna be an interesting couple of years.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Renato, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you. If people want to follow you or the family, where can they do so? So
Coach Subotic and the team MMAFFT, and yeah, if you if you are not in the best spot you can be mentally, look for a fighting gym around you. Look for something. Is a lot of things, mental health. We all like think about fighting, but we don't think what fighting does for a lot of people. A lot of these fighters, as I say, they don't have something more; they have something less. And if you watching the podcast and you struggle, that's the best way for you to start fighting your demons.
Perfect. Renato, thank you very much. Guys, links will be left in the description down below. Remember to smash the subscribe button, and we will see you next time.